Fear is the path to the dark side.
I've seen killers walk free because the eyewitness was an alcoholic. I've seen sex offenders that couldn't be touched because the victim was a call girl. Credibility. It's the only currency that means anything on this kind of playing field. Dean's got the tape and he's going to come out with it. And when he does, I want his credibility. I want people to know he's lying before they hear what he says.
Well, most of us on here realize that the mainstream media only tells us what they want us to hear. Most of the times they're pointing the opposite direction to what is really going on and the information that the public really needs to make informed decisions. But last night they turned a new page, most specifically ABC and Nightline. They did a whole hit piece on the dead fish and dead birds and all the chatter going on the internet, and they even went ahead and did something unusual and included it the tie-in of John Wheeler's death, which I thought was, kind of unusual. But, if they're trying to let us know that, oh no, that's just silly talk and everything's A-okay, then in that thought, it makes sense that ABC and Nightline have participated in this. And so the video I just put up talked about the Nightline spoof that they did about that, and I'm going to include right here the specific clip about John Wheeler.
Cue internet frenzy, dead fish, a fast rising search term. Was John Wheeler murdered because he was about to reveal secret U.S. military tests that had killed the birds?
Well, if we were to take my earlier statement to its literal nth degree, as it were, then them pointing the finger at his death and trying to make light and fun or belittle the thoughts behind it, not his death, but the conspiracy, quote-unquote, about his death. And then they go ahead and reinforce it with this.
Were they killed by a bolt from the high-frequency active auroral research program in Alaska? These are not the views of ABC News or Nightline. Over-enthusiastic headline writers, a flockalypse now, nice, took a different tack, feeding what Hollywood has already told us.
So they did that little spoof thing and went to commercial, and when they came back with a whole story about John Wheeler and the circumstances of his life and death, and did it in a more serious fashion, pointing the finger in several different directions, but none in particular, although all away from any possibility of what they had just made fun of. So, I wonder what that means. Anyway, here's the story they did.
New details emerged this afternoon in the baffling apparent homicide of former Pentagon official John Wheeler. Police in Delaware say that the night before Wheeler's body was found, cameras caught him exiting a high-rise building wearing dark pants and a sweatshirt with the hood up. Quite a change from the suit he was seen wearing in surveillance video from the previous night. Here's Pierre Thomas with our report.
The life of John Wheeler III and his death at first glance appear to be completely at odds. A life filled with honor. West Point cadet, military man, Harvard, Yale, White House aide, mover and shaker who literally helped build an iconic memorial in Washington.
Let me now introduce to you Mr. John P. Wheeler, chairman of the board of the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Fund.
Yet in the hours before he died, caught on surveillance tape looking confused and dazed, walking with one of his shoes in his hand, then murdered and thrown in a dumpster, dumped like trash in a landfill.
The fact that he wound up in the landfill, that's the most disgraceful part of it.
Who would want to kill Wheeler? Nobody yet knows. The police say it's homicide, but won't yet say how he died. So many questions. Police don't even know where the murder took place. Now a small 60-man police force in a town of about 30,000 that averages 1 or 2 homicides a year, and sometimes none, must unravel a puzzle with missing pieces. Wheeler worked in Washington as a consultant and had recently focused on national security, including ways to combat cyber attacks waged via the internet. On Wednesday, December 29th, Wheeler arrived to Wilmington, Delaware from Washington to head to his home in Newcastle, about 20 miles away. It's unclear if he ever made it there. Those who saw him say he was acting strangely. Wheeler had an odd encounter with a parking attendant.
And he had one shoe on, and he was just kind of wandering around, just looking around.
He told a security guard someone had stolen his briefcase.
And he had been robbed. And we was like, oh, you need some money or whatever? He's like, nah. So we say, you can't be homeless if he accepted money.
Wheeler is caught on video. There he is, confused. And you see, he's holding a shoe. December 30th, a full day later, Wheeler apparently was still wandering aimlessly in downtown Wilmington. He's seen again in another surveillance video a short time later, at 8:42 p.m. He leaves the building and heads to 11th Street and begins to walk southeast. In the video, which has not been released, Mr. Wheeler is wearing dark-colored pants and a dark blue hooded sweatshirt with the hood worn over his head. This is different attire from what is seen in the last video. It's as if Wheeler is now lost. Soon his life literally would be. A little more than 13 hours later, at 9:56 a.m. on New Year's Eve, a worker at this landfill sees Wheeler's body fall out of a garbage truck to the ground. It turns out the garbage truck held the first key to the case. 10 miles away in Newark, they found some disturbing clues.
Police traced the garbage pickup to 10 dumpsters in a 1-mile area. Wheeler's body was stuffed in one of them.
From there, the trail grows cold, and the case gets harder. They still have no idea where Wheeler was murdered.
You would love to have a crime scene because obviously that gives you some forensics to work with, possibly what actually caused his death.
Police are checking surveillance cameras, ATM machines, and nearby businesses.
You've got to figure out who he has communicated with and what his movements are.
In small-town Newcastle, residents are shocked and afraid. Nightline went to a local diner and bar where Wheeler was a regular.
This is a man who sat here next to me, who every time he comes in orders a Greek salad. Will sit here next to me, have a beer, might do a shot with me. Right now it's a mystery. We all have our theories.
Police are focusing on a dispute between Wheeler and one of his neighbors about construction in front of his house. Police are investigating whether several smoke bombs at the construction site were set off by Wheeler. ABC News has been unable to get comment from the neighbors.
Investigators are aware of that situation. They are looking into that as one facet of the investigation.
Sources tell ABC News that Wheeler's cell phone was found in that same disputed house. In that phone was the number of a cab driver who has been questioned by police.
I seen him one day by the Hotel DuPont. And one day I seen him inside the train station into that little store in there. That's all I know.
Some friends think Wheeler may have been the target of a hit. Others think he stumbled into a mugging and was the victim of random street crime. The sordid case feels far removed from the public life of the man of discipline who moved among Washington's power elite. His passion soldiers. He worked tirelessly as chair of fundraising for the Vietnam Veterans Memorial, seen by 4 million annually.
In the Vietnam War, each American was touched with fire. In what ways have we found new fields for action or thought? Are we living up to our potential as a free people?
A man so concerned about giving honor to fallen comrades, murdered in a way where his killer afforded him no such dignity. For Nightline, I'm Pierre Thomas, Newcastle, Delaware.
Needless to say, we'll continue to follow the story and bring you the update.
I want to use every means possible to get what we need, because this little son of a bitch is not going to be the final chapter of my life.
Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to suffering.